What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today we've got another live fantasy football mock draft for you, back on Fantasy Pros with a 10-team full-point PPR setup where we will be drafting from that fourth overall spot. As far as the roster is concerned, 1 quarterback, 2 RBs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, a flex, and then 4 bench spots. Now, before we get into it, a quick reminder, go ahead, get yourself a copy of the 2020 ADP Fantasy Football Draft Guide. It's got everything you can want in terms of rankings, top player bios, projections, tiers, along with general fantasy advice. All the details are in the description. But for now, let's get back into this draft because we are on the clock. The first 3 selections have been made. They are Christian McCaffrey, Saquon, and Ezekiel Elliott, as you can see. And that actually puts us in a perfect position here to talk someone like an Alvin Kamara, because 24 hours ago, there was a huge movement on Alvin Kamara going down rankings, and that was obviously because reports came out that the Saints could potentially look to trade him if an extension didn't get done, potential holdouts, things like that. But as soon as all those things happened, we said, look, don't really freak out about this. This is much ado about nothing. It's a typical running back standoff, but a deal will get done. Kamara is too important to the Saints, and he should still be a surefire top 4, top 5 pick. In fact, because we feel so strongly about this, because this is a full point PPR format, we're going to go ahead and draft him here. And for all of you guys that are in drafts with Alvin Kamara potentially dropping out of the top 4 and available at the 5th or 6th overall spot because people are overreacting, then we advise you go ahead and take full advantage of that situation and snap him up while you can, because it will pay off for you in the long run. But now let's go ahead and quickly look at these picks after us, because you see Dalvin Cook afterwards going off the board. That's a pick that makes sense. He's top 5 talent. Then Clyde Edwards-Helaire again. I love that selection. These first 6 picks have been going exactly as how I would make them as well. Then you see a Michael Thomas at that point in time. You could argue a good value pick. Derrick Henry, Kenyon Drake. As far as Derrick Henry is concerned, I would probably still be looking at a Joe Mixon ahead of him, maybe even a Josh Jacobs, just because of that PPR upside. Then you see a bit of a run on wide receivers with Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins, and the biggest reach so far, obviously, in the second round is Le'Veon Bell here at the 205. Now, again, you're going to see that from time to time with Fantasy Pros. They go ahead and build in some of that variability with their selections, and that's why Le'Veon Bell goes that high. Obviously, that's a reach. I wouldn't be taking Le'Veon Bell until the 4th round, and honestly, that would be specifically in a full point PPR format. I don't feel all that good about the Jets offense in general, so I'm honestly right now fading Le'Veon Bell. But let's get back to our draft board and see what we can go ahead and do here. And I'm considering 2 players. It's Austin Eckler and then it's Josh Jacobs. And I'm going to go ahead and take a gamble that maybe Josh Jacobs falls to us in the 3rd round. Austin Eckler is the best available talent right now, so I'm going to go ahead and draft him. And right from the get-go, I love our tandem of running backs. They are obviously, as you can see, let's go ahead and click to our roster, Alvin Kamara and Austin Eckler. Now, unfortunately, Josh Jacobs does not fall to us, but that's all right. He goes 2 picks afterwards with Tyreek Hill going, then Josh Jacobs, like we mentioned, Allen Robinson, the run on tight ends, follows with George Kittle, Travis Kelce, and then Aaron Jones. But we've gone ahead and insured ourselves with 2 great PPR running backs, so I feel pretty good about our start here. Now, obviously, this is a 10-team league, so the depth is going to be much better in comparison to some other situations, and that'll allow us to build a better roster in general. But let's go ahead now and start adding to our wide receiver core. And I'm going to go ahead and add Chris Godwin to the bunch here, a nice upside pick in terms of targets in a Tampa Bay offense that I think will have a lot of scoring opportunities. So we can go ahead and add him as our wide receiver 1 and then see what's available to us in that 4th round. Now, again, breaking down these selections afterwards, Kenny Golladay, Amari Cooper, a bit early on Amari Cooper, considering someone like a Mike Evans was still on the board, someone like a DJ Moore. In speaking of DJ Moore, he goes here at the 403, almost a full round later. Great value, one of the best values in this fourth round. And you also see that run on quarterbacks in the middle to end of that third round with Lamar and Patrick Mahomes going at the 307, 308. Again, I continue to point this out. I would go ahead and wait on the quarterbacks later on because you're passing up on guys like a Mike Evans, guys like a DJ Moore in order to get those high-end quarterbacks. And now, though, getting back to our big board, there's a couple ways we can go here. There's several guys that I absolutely love. I love an Adam Thielen. I think he's going to have a great year without Stephon Diggs as the number one option for Kirk Cousins. I really like a James Conner. I really like a Calvin Ridley as well. Obviously, we're not going to be able to land all of those guys, so we have to make a decision here. Again, I'm going to try and go ahead and go for the gamble. I'm going to pick Adam Thielen. Like I said, he would be one of our top three choices. And if potentially a Connor or a Ridley does fall to us, then that is amazing. But we'll see. It'll probably be a long shot that happens. And unfortunately, that is the case because right after our selection of Adam Thielen, you see that Calvin Ridley goes off the board, then Zach Ertz, then James Conner to round out that fourth round. And honestly, James Conner is probably going to be going earlier in some of your drafts because his ADP has been absolutely skyrocketing. And we've been saying it from day one. He presents incredible value in that fourth, fifth round, if you can even get him at that point in time now, for someone that's a workhorse running back on a great offense with a great offensive line that will have a lot of scoring opportunities and is a good dual threat option. So it's tough to go ahead and miss out on him, but I love our start with our two running backs and our two wide receivers. Now we can go ahead and kind of go best player available here, and let's look at our cheat sheet to see who some of those value picks might be. And I'm going to be looking at that wide receiver position, and a guy that I'm locking in on is either DJ Chark or Tyler Lockett. And I'm going to go ahead and give the edge to a DJ Chark because I think he's going to get a lot of volume in Jacksonville. Without a Leonard Fournette, he becomes even more valuable to that offense. I also really like Tyler Lockett, but he's also got the DK Metcalf factor in there as well. Now we can go ahead and select another potential piece to this roster, but probably going to be a bench spot just because the way that the roster has turned out up until this point. Real quickly, though, looking at these next selections, we had David Johnson, Courtland Sutton, Keenan Allen, Leonard Fournette. So obviously the value here on Leonard Fournette hasn't quite been updated. He shouldn't be going this high up. In fact, I would be avoiding him altogether until his new team is announced and that comes out. But regardless of where he goes, look, he could go to Philadelphia, he could go to Kansas City, he can go on all these high octane offenses. His volume will not be the same compared to what it would have been in Jacksonville. For that reason, I am now completely fading Leonard Fournette. Then you see Jonathan Taylor, Melvin Gordon, Dak Prescott, Russell Wilson to start off the sixth round. Tyler Lockett goes afterwards, so I was wondering if we would potentially get a deal on him in the sixth round. T.Y. Hilton afterwards, Deshaun Watson. So again, let's go ahead and go to our cheat sheet here and look at some of these next available players. And I really like someone like a Devontae Parker, but right now, let's go ahead and get our third running back here. And the guy that I would potentially be looking at is a Kareem Hunt. I don't want to take the chance that he won't be available to us in that next round, so I'm just going to go ahead and add him here. So right from the get-go, we've got three great PPR options as far as our running backs are concerned: Kamara, Austin Eckler, and then Kareem Hunt. Now we can go ahead and add another quality starter here. And the guys that I'm looking at are someone like a Julian Edelman, maybe an AJ Green to take a chance on. Tyler Boyd is still also available. Now, what I'm going to do here is I will just, from the get-go, consider Julian Edelman because I know he's that number one option on the team. So let's go ahead and add him here and really build some depth. And afterwards we can consider the quarterback position when it gets back to us. We can potentially look at tight end. Evan Ingram was someone that I was potentially looking at. Let's see if he's still available. Unfortunately, he is not, but that's no worries. There's still some other great options. And right now, I'm going to just get my next best available quarterback. To me, that is Matt Ryan. So let's go ahead and add him to the squad here, because there might be a bit of a run on quarterbacks just in case. So we add Matt Ryan there. And again, let's quickly go to the draft board to see what's taken place since our last couple of selections. So after we took Julian Edelman, you see Josh Allen, Devontae Parker, Drew Brees, Raheem Mostert, Michael Gallup, Cam Akers. Cam Akers not a bad pick in the 8th round as a speculative add. Then we went with a Matt Ryan, and then there was a huge run on tight ends. Before that Matt Ryan selection, I should say, actually, because after Julian Edelman, we have Will Fuller, Carson Wentz, Stephon Diggs, Landry, Tyler Boyd, AJ Green. So the 2 Cincinnati wide receivers go back to back, but then the run on tight ends: Ingram, Henry, Gronk, Higbee. Montgomery then goes, not a bad value in the 8th round, especially if that injury heals up quicker than expected. Then Hayden Hurst. So now, for the most part, every team has 2 tight ends, or at least 1. So we can go ahead and wait on that position a little bit longer, continue to add some depth, and then target guys that we really like afterwards. So here, I already know who I'm going to go with, and that is Brendan Cooks. Let's go ahead and add him to the squad to go ahead and fill out our next bench position. And after our selection of Brendan Cooks, we're going to go with finally addressing the tight end spot. And honestly, I might go with 2 tight ends in a Mike Gesicki here. That will be our first selection. And then going with another tight end just for some insurance. And I've continued to say this, Jack Doyle on the Indianapolis Colts is someone that I love, especially with Trey Burton getting nicked up. I think that Jack Doyle is going to have even more value. So honestly, that concludes our roster. And now we can go ahead and see what our team grade is and give you guys some feedback on it, because here you see a team grade of a C+. Now, I disagree with that. I think this team is a lot better than a C+. First and foremost, I love Matt Ryan as our starting quarterback, where we got him in terms of value. Maybe we're getting a little bit nicked in terms of points because we don't have a backup quarterback. I would probably say that the reason, this grade isn't higher is because guys like a Kareem Hunt, a Julian Edelman, and Brendan Cooks, who could all be starters, aren't contributing as much scoring wise because they are on our bench, but we have incredible depth. Obviously, we didn't go ahead and add kickers and defenses to the squad because right now, that's not really of all that great importance. And we can go ahead and stream those positions. But running backs, I love our running backs. Kamara, Austin Eckler, and Kareem Hunt. Like I said, all great PPR options. And if something happens to Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt is a surefire top 10 running back. He has standalone value as well, even as a backup. Probably the best handcuff in fantasy this season. And then our wide receivers, great PPR options as well. Godwin and Thielen. DJ Shark is our flex play. He could go ahead and be, very much so a low-end wide receiver 1. Julian Edelman, a nice consistent piece. Brendan Cooks is a potential breakout. And then our tight ends is probably where we're getting docked the most in terms of points, Gesicki and Jack Doyle. But I think that Gesicki has major breakout potential. Jack Doyle is someone that we went ahead and added as a stash. So honestly, I'd probably go ahead and grade this team, considering full point PPR, as a B+, but let me know what you guys think. Let me hear it in the comment section, along with any other questions you guys might have. We will do our best to answer them. And again, a quick reminder, go ahead and get yourself a copy of the 2020 ADP Fantasy Football Draft Guide. All the details in the description. If you guys enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe. But in the meantime, we'll see you guys in future videos.